This is Mike Adams, the Health Ranger, with an urgent message as we approach Inauguration Day, January 20, 2017. There's so much information coming my way from various sources, some of them credible, some of them not. And I've been working through trying to sort out all the leads and information and intelligence that's coming my way. And I've got to share some conclusions with you because we've entered the most dangerous time in the history of our nation since, let's say, the Civil War, or perhaps even the Revolutionary War. I mean, the entire future of America is at stake right now, and there are forces that are operating inside the system, including media and academia, the deep state, intelligence services inside the CIA, and so on, that are literally trying to achieve in the next 2 weeks a Soviet-style overthrow, a communist, Marxist overthrow of America, probably the execution of Donald Trump, probably a coup, an uprising, a revolt, like a Mao-style Marxist revolt. Now, for the record, I believe they will fail. So I do want to say that up front. I believe they will fail. In fact, I'm convinced of that, but they are going to attempt it. And I want to share some analysis with you, some intelligence that's coming my way. First, let me tell you that all of us who are leaders in the independent media do have various sources, lots of different sources, some of them inside even the FBI, for example, some of them inside law enforcement, inside the military, active duty or retired military, both. I personally know sheriffs and deputies and detectives and police officers and former police chiefs. I'm really strongly connected with law enforcement in several different states and cities, by the way. And, I'm on the record with that. I was given an award by the chief of police in Tucson, Arizona for my work with law enforcement there. And I did a lot of training. I helped train some cops and train some guys that were going over to the sandbox in edge weapons combat and defenses against edge weapons and so on. So I've interacted with a lot of, but that's beside the point. Let me move on. The thing is, we all have a lot of sources, and we get information coming to us, a lot of info flows to us, and we have to sort out what we think is real versus what's not real. And right now, I've never had more information coming my way on this topic of revolution, revolt, popular uprising, communist coup, cultural Marxism, and so on. What I'm hearing from various contacts, and a lot of this is secondhand or third-hand information, so take it with a grain of salt. But what I'm hearing is that, and by the way, some of my sources have, for example, infiltrated leftist groups, and so that's only secondhand information because they heard it directly from their leftist Marxist group leaders, and then they told me. And now I'm telling you, so I guess it's third hand at that point. But if you believe me, if you believe that I'm trying to tell you the truth, then it's really only secondhand information. But what I'm hearing overall is that there is indeed an actual planned coup attempt being planned for Inauguration Day, January 20, J20. And the cover story for this is that it is a peaceful protest. It's free speech protest. It's public protest. A women's march. A labor union march, or whatever they come up with. That's the cover story. What's really happening is that they hope to foment enough anger and to amass enough people on that day that it flips over into a popular uprising, and they literally flood into the Capitol buildings, not just the Capitol building itself, but they try to take over perhaps the White House, which won't work, by the way. They're going to fail. Or they try to take over the geography of power in Washington, D.C., or they camp out there. They stake it out. They try to do an Occupy Washington, D.C., basically, kind of operation. That's actually, come to think of it, that's the best way to describe it. It's going to be like an Occupy Washington, D.C. kind of attempt. And this is what leftists always do. They try to physically overrun the buildings of power and arrest and hang or behead the the leaders they don't like. I mean, look at the French Revolution, right? Or, throughout history, Central America, South America, China under Mao, and so on, Stalin, former Soviet regime changes. I mean, just look at history. They rush in and they execute the current leaders, and then they just declare themselves to be the new government. This is what many people on the left, who are basically radical communists, and they may call themselves Bernie Sanders supporters or socialists or democratic socialists, but they're basically communists in terms of their actual ideology. They're communists, they're fascists, they're statists. This is what they are. They some of them may not even know that that's what they are because they've been so radicalized. And by the way, I got to tell you about Yuri Bezmenov, the former Soviet KGB agent. You need to read an article that I've posted on naturalnews.com called Journo-Terrorism. New York Times calls for online trolls to sabotage Breitbart.com's revenues. And in there, I give a partial transcript of the psychological warfare, subversion, and control plan of the former Soviet Union. And there was a defector named Yuri Bezmenov. And Yuri defected to the United States. He ran the mind twisting propaganda, if you will, of the Soviet Empire in order to achieve the subversion and takeover of targeted nation states. And he ran that campaign, and he lays it all out in this video, which is, I don't know, a couple of hours or something, or maybe an hour or so. He lays out the 4 stages of how they achieve that. And those 4 stages are demoralization, secondly, destabilization, third is crisis, and fourth is normalization. And I want to tell you that we are in stage 3 right now in the United States. I'm going to do probably another video or podcast just on Yuri Bezmenov and his subversion tactical plans, because they are so very important. It's important to understand that in order for you to get a grasp of what's actually happening. We are in stage 3. And I got to tell you, the New York Times, the Washington Post, CNN, they are engaged in Soviet-style subversion. It's right out of the KGB playbook. It's all about subverting the culture through pushing sexual deviancy, eliminating religion, attacking the male, attacking the family structure, destabilizing and demoralizing law enforcement systems, the educational system taking that over, all of the areas where public opinion is shaped, establish social workers institutions that are ruled by bureaucracies, eliminate ethics and replace it with the state, and so on. It's just step by step by step. And this is what they have done throughout history to overthrow and subvert nations. This is exactly what is happening in America. And Obama has been part of this, deliberately moving this plan forward step by step. A lot of people look at what Obama did and they think he's incompetent. They wonder like, what was he thinking? Why did he do these things? They make no sense. Why was, gay marriage so important to be pushed? The destruction of Christianity, free speech, and so on. It all aligns. I mean, no matter what you feel about that, because I'm kind of a social libertarian on gay issues, but no matter what you feel or believe about that personally, the issue is that this is exactly the playbook, the blueprint of subversion from the Soviet KGB agents. And this goes back to, really, I think this video was filmed in the Reagan era. And it's if you read this, you're going to go, oh my God, this is exactly what is happening right now in America. You're just going to be stunned. It's a blueprint for the Obama regime and the New York Times and the Washington Post and the globalists and what Bill Gates is doing and Jeff Bezos. This is a blueprint. They've been following it for decades, and they've almost completed it. And now Trump, you see, is interfering with their plans. Trump has thrown a wrench into the machine, and they cannot allow that to happen because they almost had it. If they could just get Clinton elected, then they could have continued this to stage all the way through stage 3 crisis and then to stage 4 normalization, where we would be basically a totalitarian socialist or communist regime, fascist regime, really, run by the political elite with subservient, obedient masses who worship Hillary Clinton like a goddess. we were so close to that happening. And they, by the way, they would have gone through and arrested and executed most of the independent media journalists at some point in Clinton's first term. It's all part of the plan. It's all, read this work by Yuri Bezmenov and you can find out that's exactly what they do. So Trump gets elected. They did not see that coming. They vastly underestimated the popular support for Trump. They even held back some false flags that they were planning to roll out to really sway the election in favor of Hillary Clinton. They thought they didn't need them. They thought they had it in the bag. And so by mistake, in the minds of the globalists, Trump gets elected. So now the globalists go into total shock, dismay. They're freaking out. They're trying to figure out, how do we get power back? So they start rolling out, like through the George Soros propaganda system and all the websites that he funds, PolitiFact and the fact checkers and Facebook and all the gatekeepers of the internet, Google News, Yahoo News, Twitter, and so on, all the left-wing radical leftist media outlets like Think Progress and so on. They start pushing as hard as they can to, overthrow the Electoral College, right? And the celebrities come out from Hollywood and they film this stupid video. It's like, be a Hamilton hero and vote against the Electoral College. These people don't even know who Hamilton was. They have no idea. Hamilton was immigration, basically. Hamilton believed in strong borders, but that's another story. They try to get the Electoral College overthrown and they fail. And they try recounts and they fail. And it's just a playbook. They're going down one by one to try to overthrow the results of the election. They tried to have Congress not certify the results of the election. They tried to say electors or electoral voters weren't, properly sworn in or qualified or some lame excuse. I forgot the exact wording they used. Anyway, they failed. The leftists failed at every stage of this attempt to overthrow the Electoral College and the essentially the representational republic process of voting and representation. So now here they are. They've got no more attempts left. There's nothing left to do except to just go full out Marxism, communism, KGB style overthrow. This is all they have left is just a sort of a mad rush in Washington. And that's what they're planning on doing. That's what this Disrupt J20 is all about. Now, the New York Times is directly calling for sabotage of Breitbart. They're also calling for, they're publicizing Communist Party propaganda to say that lots of people should show up on Inauguration Day and disrupt events. I mean, Michael Moore is out there saying we're going to resist for 100 days. Many others, leaders of the radical Marxist left, are out there saying essentially, we're going to overthrow the system, sometimes in sort of different phraseology, but that's what they mean. They want to overthrow the system. They do not accept it. I mean, they took out a full page ad in the New York Times and said, we say no to fascism. We will not accept this president and so on. This is revolution type of talk. This is the kind of stuff that you saw before the Cultural Revolution that became communist China, right? This is the kind of stuff that you saw in Stalin's purge. This is the kind of talk that you have seen throughout world history right before a bunch of people get bullets in their heads. Seriously. I mean, if you know anything about human history, and if you don't, you should read up on it because it's the same stuff repeating itself. Every time the radical left starts to talk like this, they are about to try an assault on the system. They're going to try an overthrow. They're going to engage in mass executions. Again, go back to the French Revolution. How many people did they behead? Even their own people, by the way, eventually. That's the one thing about the left is they assassinate their own people as soon as they're not useful anymore. So all of those out there who think they're going to be part of this attempted coup, they're going to get a bullet in their heads too because their own compatriots will eventually shoot them when they're no longer useful. But they don't realize that yet because they don't know anything about history. So they're just going along with this bandwagon, the Bernie Sanders socialist bandwagon. They have no idea that there's probably a bullet with their name on it in the hands of their own party members. Just look at history again. This happens over and over and over again. So they think that they're going to gather and try to overthrow the government on January 20. Now, how do you know that anything that I'm telling you here has any fact to it at all? How do you know that I'm not making this up completely? The answer is simple. Go to the Washington Examiner. Let me see if I can get the right. Yeah, here it is. The title of this story on WashingtonExaminer.com. 5,000 National Guard troops will be deployed for Trump swearing in. All right, that's the title of the story. When I saw this, I knew that my sources were telling me the truth. I knew that inside the FBI, inside law enforcement, inside the military, and even sort of National Guard, state-run local military, if you will, inside these institutions, they were taking these threats seriously. They know that there's going to be an attempted coup on January 20. In fact, it may start on January 19, for all we know, and it may continue for days. When have you ever heard of 5,000 troops being deployed at a presidential inauguration? To my knowledge, I don't think that's ever happened. I mean, maybe it has back in the Civil War or something, proportionally a lot of troops, but never 5,000 troops, not to my knowledge. And that's in addition to what I already know is going to be 1,000 U.S. Marines stationed there as well. And on top of that, according to this story in the Washington Examiner, there are going to be 3,000 security officers from multiple jurisdictions, quote, end quote, will be on the ground. And the entire police force from D.C. will also be there. And there's thousands and thousands of cops in the D.C. police force and surrounding area PDs. Basically, just to do the math for you here, we're talking about roughly about 10,000 military or semi-military or law enforcement personnel on the ground in Washington, D.C. on Inauguration Day. About 10,000. When have you ever heard of security forces in the government amassing that large of a truly military or paramilitary presence on Inauguration Day? Never. It's never happened. Again, not as far as I know. I'd be surprised if that had ever happened before. Why is this happening? Why are they doing this? Why are they deploying 5,000 National Guard troops? Well, according to the story in the Washington Examiner, it's due to, quote, security concerns. Okay, so security concerns is code word for attempted coup. Okay, because you don't need 5,000 troops for, they think somebody's going to bring in, I don't know, some pot, or somebody's going to have I don't know, let's say an IED in a backpack or something. No, you bring in 5,000 troops when you are expecting something big, something really, really huge to go down. When I saw that story and I read those numbers, to me, that was confirmation that the intelligence that I was getting was accurate, that this is going down. This is going to be big. And again, my assessment is that the left will fail, but they are going to try something. Now, there are other sources out there who think that Obama is going to possibly try to declare the election invalid or something a couple of days before the inauguration. I don't know about that. I haven't heard anything specific about that. I kind of think that that's not going to fly. So I doubt that very, very much. I don't think that's going to happen. But there could be all kinds of radical actions taken or declarations or decrees announced as we get up to this day of inauguration. And I wouldn't put it past these people, these evil globalists and these radical communists, fascists, leftists. I don't know. Maybe we need an all-encompassing term to better describe them. But I wouldn't put it past them to try something truly evil and crazy on a monumental scale. Like, for example, this is just a guess, like a dirty bomb, like a terrorist dirty bomb attack on DC on that day, to try to radiologically poison the president, for example. I wouldn't put it past them to try something like that. Now, that's incredibly stupid because, of course, there are going to be radiation detectors all over that town. right? You're not even going to be able to get your dirty bomb past, the 50-mile marker to even get close to that. You're going to be setting off alarms left and right. They're going to come at you with a massive, nuclear response team. There's no way you're going to get a dirty bomb close to Donald Trump. But that doesn't mean these people aren't stupid enough to try it, because they're incredibly stupid. They don't think, the radiation, it's invisible, we'll sneak it in. No, it's detectable, okay? It's called radioactive decay, and it emits energy that can be picked up by detectors. I mean, heck, people that have, imaging, radiological nuclear imaging at the hospital for various health conditions, they set off the nuclear detectors all over Washington, D.C., in the subway. I've seen stories of people coming out of the hospital there in Virginia, wherever, and they get on the subway in D.C. and a SWAT team descends on them. Why? Because they set off these silent radiation detectors, which are basically nuclear terrorist bomb detection devices or early warning devices, and they're tied into the whole law enforcement system there. So no, you can't successfully sneak in a dirty bomb into Washington, D.C. on Inauguration Day, thank God, right? But it doesn't mean they won't try it. So what else could they try? Well, again, I think the biggest thing they'll try is just a mass rush. They'll just try to get everybody whipped up into a frenzy. Maybe they'll have Michael Moore lead the rush, and they'll try to climb the hill to the Capitol building. They won't even make it 100 yards because the guy is completely out of shape. So I guess the massive uprising of the left will fall flat out of just sheer exhaustion from the obesity and the junk food, which would be hilarious. I can't wait to see that on YouTube. But suppose they make it. Suppose that the snowflakes, the pathetic left-wing snowflakes, manage to even climb the hill or march the 1,000 yards or whatever. Suppose they make it into the Capitol building and they take it over. And they announce, we're occupying the Capitol building. And we are the legitimate government now, and blah, blah, blah. We the people. They're going to say, Hillary won the popular vote. Never mind that the popular vote wasn't the competition. It's not how it works. That's not the way that Trump campaigned, not for the popular vote. He campaigned under the rules of the Constitution, right? So he won the election fair and square. But the leftists don't understand that. All they know is that they want to be in power, and in their minds, screw democracy. They don't think anything of democracy unless they win. They don't want a two-party system to compete for ideas and compete for popular support and compete for votes. What they want is a one-party monopoly, totalitarian dominant system with no dissenting voices, hence the entire censorship of everything they don't agree with through political correct language control. If you don't agree with them, you're a racist, you're a xenophobe, you're a homophobe, you're an Islamophobe, you're a sexist, whatever. That's how they try to shut down all dissenting views. If you don't agree with them on climate change, they want to have you arrested. They don't have any room in their minds for anything other than what they already believe in. So they want to take over, and they want to squat in the Capitol building and say that they are the new government and that Trump is illegitimate, right? This is their strategy. Well, I'm here to tell you, that's going to be really entertaining. I wish I could see it in person, but I'm not going. I'm not gonna get trampled by a stampede of left-wing zombie bots and sheeples. I'm going to be in Texas, by the way, covering this from afar. But the people that will be there will include 1,000 U.S. Marines and, again, 5,000 National Guard troops and thousands of local police officers, all of these groups support Donald Trump. The Marines support Donald Trump because he's pro-military. The National Guard supports Donald Trump. The police support Donald Trump because he's finally going to give police permission to do their jobs and take a stand against rioting and looters and Black Lives Matter assassins and all these horrible people on the radical left who just want mayhem and chaos and everything to burn down because they're not happy with, they're not getting enough food stamps or what have you, or they imagine there's a KKK crisis across America. It doesn't even exist as any kind of widespread epidemic. I live in Texas, never even met anybody in my whole life that claimed to be KKK. I couldn't find a KKK person if I tried. I mean, it's like finding a unicorn at the end of a rainbow with a pot of gold and a leprechaun dancing in the rain or something. How do you even find KKK people? I don't even know. But they think is that the left thinks it's taking over the country. So they're freaked out. They're all paranoid, and they're all smoking pot. So they're also, drug-induced paranoia is coming out of their ears. And they think that if they don't overthrow Trump, that they're all going to die. They think they're going to be rounded up and thrown into FEMA camps, which, by the way, is exactly what they want to do to patriots and conservatives who don't agree with them. That's the old plan of what was his name? The Weatherman and Bill Ayers, right? The people who trained Obama. That was their plan, was to round up Americans and put them in camps and re-educate them, and the ones that couldn't be re-educated, they were going to be executed. That's their plan. That's all on the record stuff. If you don't know about that, you don't know much about American history. So they're going to be squatting, and all these Marines and all these National Guard troops and all these police are going to be there. And this is going to be the most entertaining failed coup attempt in the history of coup attempts. Because I guarantee you, 1,000 U.S. Marines, just alone, not even counting the National Guard troops, will defeat any number of radical leftists. Any number. You pick a number. I don't care if it's 100,000. 1,000 U.S. Marines will defeat 100,000 zombie leftards. No question about it. There's not even a competition. I mean, yeah, it's just, I'm crack it up just thinking about it. And the National Guard troops are going to be on top of that. And by the way, if things start to get out of hand, let's say 100,000 leftists somehow manage to overrun 1,000 U.S. Marines, which isn't going to happen, but in some alternate universe, let's suppose it did. What's going to happen next? You're going to get 100,000 patriots or more from all around the East Coast. I mean, I'm talking Second Amendment activation. People are going to show up in huge numbers, and they're going to defend. They're going to defend the Capitol building. They're going to defend the Trump presidency against these radical leftists and Marxists and communists. They're going to, in other words, the patriots will show up and help the Marines and help the National Guard troops. Just bring them ammo. Here, have a ballistic vest, Well, they probably already have their own, but they might bring extra, here's extra ammo or what have you. Or they'll just show up with their own rifles and say, where do you want us? I mean, there is no scenario in which the left achieves some kind of a takeover here, even though in their minds they think that's what they're doing. Now, you got to wonder, why do they think this? Why do they think they can pull this off? The answer is they are mentally ill. All right, these people are mentally ill. This is Generation Snowflake. These people don't know how to lose. They don't know how to hear the word no. You can't have that, because all their lives, especially the younger people, they've been given everything they wanted. They've been given trophies for participation. They never actually won anything, but they got trophies anyway. So they don't know how to win, and they don't know how to lose. They've been playing in sporting events where nobody even keeps score anymore because of this pathetic PC culture in academia. You got to have your safe spaces and your cry zones. And people write the word Trump in chalk on a sidewalk. It sends students into the trauma center for counseling. These people are so weak-minded. There's no chance they could take over anything. There's no chance. I mean, you compare that to the National Guard troops and the Marines, who are actually tough people, men and women, who have been trained to be tough, who are mentally tough, who've got fortitude and discipline and determination and training and skills. They actually have something that's real, instead of these leftists that have been studying cultural studies, women's studies, these nonsense themes, these self-reinforcing thought bubbles of academia that don't even mean anything, and they graduate with degrees that have no practical application whatsoever. It's like having a degree in degrees. And you think those radical leftists are going to be able to physically overthrow 1,000 armed Marines and 5,000 National Guard troops? Not going to happen. But it sure is going to be fun to watch. Can't wait to see that on YouTube. Wish I could just sort of live tweet that thing. I wish they would do it at a certain pre-announced time so I could get on Twitter and just live tweet that sucker. Okay, they're going around the corner, aiming for the field goal attempt now. We have Michael Moore carrying the ball. Oh, fumble. This looks like, tweet that thing like a sports game. Would be the most hilarious sports game ever. And I don't mean to make light of it. It's just, it is, the people on the left, they're serious. They think they're going to do this. And they're so wrong. Their worldview has been so shattered. They're wrong about everything, by the way. They're wrong about history. They're wrong about economics. They're wrong about, they can't even do math. They're wrong about science. They're wrong about climate change. They're wrong about the structure of government. They're so wrong about everything. And this election just affirmed that, how wrong they are. They're wrong about the direction of the culture. They're wrong about what it means to be an American. They're wrong about everything. And they just, I guess they've hit a brick wall where they're tired of being wrong. And now they just want to bully their way into power. That's essentially what it comes down to. Because they've been bullies for so long. They've been using political correctness to bully everybody for so long. They've been using Hollywood and the media, just bullying all these ideas into your head. They've got like 6-year-old child actors dressed up in sex fetish costumes on HBO or whatever. And it's just this cultural subversion and this PC bullying where you can't criticize Obama because he's black. What? You're a racist if you disagree with his policies? What? That's bullying. And that's what the left has done for all these years. Oh, you can't criticize a gay person for something unrelated to the fact that they're gay? Oh, you're a gay basher. You're a racist. You're a homo. Oh, you have white skin. You must be evil by definition, and white guilt. And this is intellectual bullying that they've been pushing all these years. And they've been getting away with it because so many Republicans have been spineless, and so many white people have been just spineless, and they refuse to stand their ground and say, this is BS. This is BS. If we're going to be tolerant in a society, don't we have to be tolerant of, everyone? Not just everyone unless you're white? If we're going to have diversity in society, shouldn't that mean diversity of ideas? Then why do we have to be obedient to your radical leftist ideas? That's not diversity, that's obedience. But that's what the left demands. And they've been getting away with it, so they don't know how to lose. And that's why they've been whining and crying like little babies and doing Play-Doh sessions of, trauma treatment healing sessions with hot cocoa and fuzzy stuffed animals curled up into little balls with sleeping bags on beanbag chairs at their universities. Because this is the way they are now. They're mentally ill. They've gone through so much training of thinking that they are the future that they cannot even grasp the idea that they have been wrong, that they're mentally ill, that they're twisted, that they're distorted, that their views of the world make no sense to any rational person. That's what this is coming down to. And so this attempted coup is their last desperate act of bullying. They just want to bully their way. They want to rush, sort of mad rush, sort of a zombie rush into the buildings of power. And they want to kill Donald Trump, literally, right? And they talk about it all the time, all these death threats on Facebook and Twitter. They literally want to kill Donald Trump. And if they could, they would. But they're going to fail. So, in conclusion, number one, I want to say, if you're listening to this and you're a member of the U.S. Marines or a member of the National Guard or a member of the D.C. police law enforcement, I want you to know that you have our support, that we, the people, want you to do your jobs. We want you to protect the new president. We want you to maintain order. And more importantly, we support you getting aggressive in doing your jobs. In other words, arrest those people. Don't back down. Don't turn into cowards like you've had to do under Obama. Stand your ground. Arrest the coup attempt people. If they're causing trouble, throw handcuffs on them. Or if they start violence, stop the violence using whatever force is legally available to you. That is, legally approved by your police department policies or your National Guard policies. Obviously follow your commanders and so on, but, follow the chain of command. But use the force that is authorized to you by your chain of command. Don't be afraid to assert your duty to help maintain a civil society and stop silly uprisings like we're probably going to see attempted on that day. This is a new era for law enforcement in America, and that is the era of popular support. We are tired of the looters and the arsonists running rampant across America's cities and killing police officers and mugging innocent people and pulling people out of their cars and beating them. We are tired of that, and it is time to restore some basic law and order to our society. And believe me, that opinion is widespread. It is widely supported across our population. And so when police need to do their jobs and shut down this violence, you have our support. You have our support in every way possible. And don't worry, the New York Times is going to call you names, and the Washington Post is going to say, how dare you function as police? You should let rioters, beat you and run over you and burn your buildings down. We say no. The New York Times and the Washington Post are left-wing, fascist, communist propaganda rags. Don't let them tell you how to do your jobs. Your jobs are to keep the streets safe, to stop violence, to protect communities in America. And so on January 20, we support you doing that in Washington, D.C. Believe me, you have our support in every way imaginable. Secondly, I hope that one of the very first acts that Donald Trump takes as the new president is to issue arrest warrants for the treasonous subversives who have tried to deliberately and maliciously overthrow America and destroy this country. And I'm not going to name names, Eric Holder, but there's a long list of people who have actively and deliberately engaged in treasonous acts against the United States of America. And it is time to stop pussyfooting around and start arresting, indicting, prosecuting with fair trials those people, Lois Lerner, who are responsible for trying to subvert America, destroy America, or using their positions of power as political weapons to silence dissent or to stage false flag operations like Operation Fast and Furious under Eric Holder. It is time for Trump to get tough in the interests of protecting America. And yes, the Trump administration has our widespread support for those efforts as well. And for those of you who disagree with this, if you're whiny snowflake leftists, you need to get used to losing, because you're going to be losing a whole lot as we move forward with real progress in America. You call yourself progressives, but you're not. You're just fascists. Real progress is made under law and liberty, due process, law and order, protecting liberty, limiting the size of government, respecting the Second Amendment, honoring the Constitution, honoring our veterans, honoring our cops on the streets. This is how we make real progress in society. We are the progressives, if you think about it, in the strict definition of the term. And you, the radical fascist, leftist, communist, socialist, whatever, you need to get used to losing, because you're going to keep losing again and again and again. And all you're going to do is make us laugh even harder as you keep trying and failing to overthrow America, because we, the people, will defend this country. We will defend the Constitution. We will defend the legitimate presidency. We will defend the philosophy and the culture of this great country and the great state of Texas, by the way, where I am recording this. We will defend these things with our lives. End of story. We do not compromise. We are fed up with backing down and being bullied by you. And now the time to well, how do I say this without getting into trouble? I'll just say it this way. It is time to reassert the freedoms and the rights of the American people as described in the Constitution. It is time to take back America from the cultural subversion of the radical left, the communist influence, Marxist influence, radical left-wing, even terrorists and murderers who killed cops and so on. It's time to shut that whole sector of society down. It is time to shut that down. And if it takes Trump issuing arrest warrants and it takes putting police out there onto the streets for a little while to get that done and find the treasonous subversives who need to be arrested and prosecuted, then Trump is going to have our full support in getting that done. We can no longer tolerate losing our country. We are going to protect America. We're going to protect Texas. We're going to protect our Constitution, protect our rights, and protect our president. End of story. Anybody has a problem with that? Good luck. So thanks for listening. My name's Mike Adams, the Health Ranger. You can find my podcast at healthrangerreport.com. Read my news at naturalnews.com.